There are moments, quiet ones, when you sit with yourself and wonder, is there something wrong with me? When conversations feel forced, when your words are too much, when your silence is even louder, and you start thinking, maybe you're just too complicated, too intense, too soft in a world that praises cold. You've probably heard it before. You're too sensitive. You overthink everything. Why can't you just let it go? And slowly, quietly, it starts to sink in that maybe the way you feel is a burden, that maybe love wasn't made for people like you. And in that space of quiet pain, where your thoughts echo a little too loudly, you start to shrink yourself. You begin to edit your personality, trim down your laughter, hold back your opinions, and soften your truths. Hoping, just maybe, if you become smaller, someone might finally choose to stay. But deep down, you feel the emptiness that comes from hiding. It's exhausting to constantly wonder if you're too much, too emotional, too real, too deep. You've watched others be loved easily, people who seem to glide through life effortlessly. And you? You carry oceans inside you. You feel things 10 layers deep. You think before you speak. You love with everything you have. But you're not sure if anyone really sees it. And so, the question lingers. Why does it feel so hard for someone to just love me as I am? Let's pause here, not for answers, but for honesty. Because maybe the truth is this: you were never hard to love. You were just misunderstood. You were surrounded by people who only knew how to love parts of a person, the easy parts, the convenient parts, the pieces that didn't ask for effort, patience, or understanding. But you were never meant to be loved in halves. You've tried to explain it before. The way your chest tightens in rooms full of people. The way a simple message left on read can spiral into hours of self-doubt. The way a smile from someone you care about can lift your entire day. And the absence of it can ruin your week. But not everyone gets it. They tell you to stop being dramatic, to move on, to toughen up. And so, you stay quiet. You nod. You smile. You pretend. But inside, you're screaming for someone to just say, I hear you. I see you. I understand. Let me be the one to say it now. What you feel is real. You don't have to apologize for the weight of your heart. You don't have to shrink just because the world doesn't know how to hold you. It hurts, doesn't it? When you give so much of yourself, and yet people only take the surface. When you show your cracks hoping someone will gently trace them with care, but instead they point them out and call them flaws. You've been made to feel like loving deeply is a weakness, but I'm here to tell you, it's not. It takes strength to care in a world that tells you not to. It takes courage to feel when everyone else is numbing. It takes power to show up as your full self when you've been taught to hide behind filters, edits, and masks. And no, you're not too much. You're not too clingy. You're not overly emotional. You are human. Beautifully, achingly human. With a soul that feels storms and sunrises at the same time. It's okay if you've been misunderstood. It's okay if your love hasn't been returned the way you gave it. It's okay if you're still learning to forgive yourself for trusting people who weren't ready for your heart. You are not the problem. You were never the problem. You were just surrounded by people who didn't know how to love someone with depth. And that's not your fault. So breathe. Let go of the guilt that doesn't belong to you. Let go of the idea that you're only lovable if you're easy. And allow yourself to grieve. Not just the people who left, but the version of you that kept chasing their approval. This is your space. To be exactly as you are. Raw. Real. Whole. You've been told you're too deep. But depth isn't a flaw. It's an ocean. And just because someone couldn't swim in you doesn't mean you were too much. It means they were not ready for your waters. See, people often confuse difficulty with unfamiliarity. They mistake your layered thoughts as overthinking, your care as clinginess, your honesty as intensity. But here's the truth. You're not hard to love. You just love in a world that's forgotten what real connection feels like. Most people have been taught to live on the surface. Quick texts, half-truths, performative smiles. But you crave conversations that breathe. You want to know someone's childhood fears, not just their favorite coffee. You want love that doesn't skip steps, that doesn't feel like a transaction, but a slow unfolding of souls. And maybe that scared them, because the world teaches us to run from what we don't understand, to label what we don't have the courage to explore. But listen closely. Their inability to understand you does not make you unworthy. It makes you rare. You are not a burden. You are a galaxy disguised as a single star. And just because someone couldn't see the constellations in you doesn't mean they weren't there. Maybe you grew up thinking love had to be earned, that you had to prove you were worth keeping. So you overextended. You tried harder. You apologized for emotions that were never wrong in the first place. But love, real love, isn't about performance. It's not about twisting yourself into versions you don't recognize just to be held by hands that don't know how to hold gently. You don't need to be less of anything. You don't need to become colder, quieter, easier. What you need is to be surrounded by people who don't fear the fire in you. People who lean in when you speak, not because they're waiting for their turn, but because they genuinely care about what lives inside your mind. So what if you're not for everyone? You were never supposed to be. Some souls aren't meant for crowds. They're meant for quiet, sacred connections that feel like home. Let this be the moment you stop chasing people who make you feel like you're hard to love. Let this be the moment you realize you are not too much. You are the exact right amount for the hearts brave enough to meet you fully. And when you meet those people, you won't have to explain your silence. You won't have to justify your tears. You won't be punished for your vulnerability. You will be seen, fully, clearly, lovingly. And that is what you deserve. Take a breath. In, outside. You made it through so much already. You're still here. That means something. I know it's hard to carry a heart that feels everything, to walk through the world with open hands and get them slapped away, to give pieces of yourself in the hope that someone might stay and be left wondering if you're just too complicated to love. But let me gently remind you, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not beyond repair. You're just healing. And healing takes time. Sometimes growth is quiet. It doesn't always look like victories or revelations. Sometimes it looks like choosing to get out of bed. Sometimes it looks like saying no when you're used to saying yes. Sometimes it's just surviving a hard day with your heart still intact. Give yourself credit for that. You're learning. You're unlearning. You're becoming. And even if no one claps for you, even if no one sees the tiny battles you fight daily, they matter. You matter. If you've been feeling tired, not just physically, but soul-deep tired, the kind of tired that makes you question if anything will ever feel right again, please hear this. Rest is not laziness. Crying is not weakness. Starting over does not mean you failed. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to not have it all figured out. You're allowed to feel joy and pain in the same breath. Your softness is not a flaw. It's a rebellion in a world that tries to harden everything. So please, don't give up on yourself. Not now. Not when you're this close to understanding that being loved isn't about changing who you are. It's about being seen as you are. Maybe you haven't met that kind of love yet. The kind that doesn't walk away when you fall apart. The kind that stays during the storm and doesn't just wait for sunshine. But that doesn't mean it isn't real. It doesn't mean it isn't coming. And maybe, just maybe, before that love finds you, you're meant to become it for yourself. Be the person who speaks gently to your inner child. Be the one who whispers, "You're enough," even on the days your reflection disagrees. You don't need to rush. Healing isn't linear. Some days will hurt. Others will feel like freedom. But every step counts. Every breath you take in spite of the ache. That is resilience. You're not behind. You're not failing. You're just in progress. And there's nothing more human than that. So before you go, Let this be something you carry with you. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not too emotional. You are not difficult to love. You are a human being with depth, with feelings that reach beyond the surface, with stories written in chapters no one else has had the patience to read, but that doesn't mean your story is unreadable. It just means you haven't met the right reader yet. You are worthy of a love that doesn't make you shrink, a love that doesn't flinch when you speak your truth, a love that listens, not to fix you, but to know you. The world might not always understand hearts like yours, but that doesn't make you less. It makes you rare. It makes you needed. There is strength in your softness. There is beauty in your honesty. There is power in the way you still hope, despite the way this world tried to teach you not to. So here's what I hope you'll remember. You don't need to become colder just to survive. You don't need to mute your joy or hide your tears. You don't need to settle for people who can only love the version of you that's easy to handle. You are not a burden. You are a blessing. You are not hard to love. You've just been giving your love to those who didn't know what to do with it. But you are love. You are enough, exactly as you are. And in case no one's told you lately, I see you. I believe in your healing. I'm proud of how far you've come. So keep walking, keep feeling, keep being you, because the world needs hearts like yours. And love, real, gentle, unconditional love, will find you. If these words felt like home to your heart, don't scroll in silence. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're healing, tell me, how's your heart today?